So, the things I've been fermenting have stopped fermenting. Well, almost stopped fermenting. The pear juice is still, there's a little bit of bubbles going on, but it's almost stopped. And these two, the cheap apple juice and the juice from the tinned apples, has that stopped quite a while ago, and that stopped a few days ago. So we're going to give it a taste. We're going to taste it now, and then I think what we'll do is we'll taste it cool as well. So, and then I can have a bit of a think about what I want to do with the cider, if I want to turn it into apple cider vinegar, or just drink it as cider. Kind of see. Have a think about that. So, what we're going to do first, let's do the juice from the tinned apples. Get that out of the way somewhere safe, it's not going to spill everywhere. And then we've got a glass. So, it's a bit thick. Viscous is the word. Let's see how it tastes. Tastes like it's gone to vinegar already. That's starting to turn to vinegar. That was kind of quite interesting. Well, that's decided on that one that we're going to turn it into vinegar. God, that turned to vinegar quick, didn't it? Considering it stopped bubbling. That's kind of quite interesting. So, that's vinegar. Where's another glass? I did have another glass. Oh, here we go. Right, so the pear juice is still slightly fermenting. So let's have a look at the cider. I'm wanting to collect the yeast out the bottom. I'm going to try and make some more Marmite, more vegetable extract, not vegetable extract, like Vegemite yeast extract. That's what the word I'm looking for. It's not very strong. It certainly tastes like cider, but it's not very, it's kind of lost its sweetness as well. So, there's nothing remarkable about the way that tastes. So we're certainly going to turn that into vinegar. That's that, and then now there's substantially more sugar in the pear juice. So we'll have to see how it turns out. Just give that a quick rinse. Interesting that the tinned apple juice turned to vinegar so quickly. That's still really sweet as that. It's probably down to the yeast that I collected. It's not very like a particularly strong yeast, like a champagne yeast, that's going to turn a lot of the sugar to alcohol. So it's kind of not turned it very strong. Like it's sweet, it's like a liqueur as that. Probably a little bit too sweet. But I suppose we could always buy some champagne yeast and see if we could ferment that further. That'd be kind of quite interesting, wouldn't it? That's it, we might do that. We might buy some champagne yeast and see if we can ferment that further. But that's that. Let's just taste that again. Yeah, that's definitely on the way to vinegar. Wow, that was kind of quite a quick thing. So, we'll taste those again cold. I'm just going to put something on the top of that container because I haven't got another bowl for it. So we'll put them in the fridge overnight and we'll let them go cold, and then we'll kind of see how they kind of taste. But I mean, it's like it's not 100%. I mean, they're fermented, but just not that successfully turning into alcohol. So it's kind of worth, if you want to have a faff around with fermenting, then you can collect your own yeast. But if you're wanting to make like a decent grade alcohol, then you certainly need to buy the proper stuff. Is my advice. But you know, if you just want to have a go at fermenting before you kind of invest in expensive equipment, then you can certainly do it on the cheap and collect your own yeast. I am going to have a go at some fermenting some more things. The ginger, the yeast, I've still got the yeast. It's still fermenting in the fridge. So this is the yeast, and it's still fermenting in the fridge. Needs stirring up actually. It's just got a little bit of mess on top of it. So as you can see, it's still bubbly, but it made a nice ginger beer. So it's certainly not useless. And I suppose if I wanted to speed up the vinegar making process, rather than just relying on the natural yeast that's already on the fruit that we're going to turn into vinegar, then collecting your own yeast would be a good idea because it would speed up that process. Oh yeah, I'm going to have a go at making just fermenting some fruit juices for a few days and see if we can get them fizzy, like the ginger beer did, and then kind of see how that turns out. So it'd be like a bit like a probiotic, naturally fermented fizzy drink, which I kind of think would be kind of quite interesting. So my homemade yeast would be better for that because it's not going to be very alcoholic. It's going to ferment, it's going to be fizzy, but there's not going to be much alcohol in there, which is probably a good thing. So, but there we go. I don't know if it's well, we'll see how they taste cold tomorrow, but not 100% success, not 100% failure. Right, it's chilled. Let's have another taste. I think I've pretty much decided with the cider that I'm going to turn it into cider vinegar. It's not particularly strong tasting alcohol, which actually will mean it'll make quite a good cider. Vinegar. It'll actually make a good vinegar. So I'm going to, because of the alcohol content in it, it's not very strong. It will make a good vinegar. You don't want the alcohol to be too strong because the alcohol vinegar doesn't turn to vinegar just as easy. Anyway, so I think that's what I'm going to do with it. But there is a little bit of debris down the bottom which I'm going to collect and add to other bits of yeast debris, yeast culture, whatever you want to call it, and we'll have a go at making some more Marmite out of that. Do you know, it's not so bad actually. It's got quite nice cold. It's not so strong, and it's not like some ciders to me can be not very nice. Like there's something about them, like it doesn't taste kind of quite natural for some reason. But this is kind of quite nice. I think if I'd used a nicer apple juice, I think it would have made a nicer cider. So my sister has an apple tree in the garden, and on this apple tree there's actually two different types of apples that grow on it. If you know anything about apple trees, what they do is you can't grow an apple seed. You can't grow a Braeburn apple from a Braeburn apple seed. What you have to do is you have to take a sprout from a Braeburn tree and graft it onto a generally a hawthorn root. I think it's a hawthorn root. But my sister's tree has actually got two different sprouts from two different trees grafted onto a rooting system. So she's got two different apples. Makes kind of quite nice apple juice. So we might have a go at making cider from that at the back end of the year and see how that kind of turns out. But I think I'll turn this one into apple cider vinegar. I might not actually. I might turn some of it into apple cider vinegar. I might drink the rest of it. That's alright, is that? That might be kind of quite just nice on an evening over some ice as a fruity, slightly alcoholic drink. Maybe it's a little bit dry in flavour actually. So it's not like a sweet cider. It's a little bit dry. So this is the pear, and I think I've pretty much decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this, and I'm going to get some champagne yeast and see if we can ferment it even further and see if that kind of happens. Just a little bit too sweet, but it's just a little bit too sweet. How about a little bit more? It's nice because it's got that background flavour of the spices that are in the pear and a little bit of lemon. So maybe if we mix them, we'll see what happens. That's delicious. Kind of tastes a bit like a mead. Anyway, this is going to be the end of the video because I could think about doing things with this kind of quite ever. So, could mix those and make it a bit, that's kind of a bit, it's a bit spicy, it's a bit sweet. That kind of balances it out. That'd be kind of quite nice over what we call it, over ice, just as a drink, like a bit of a mead type of thing. So that's kind of worth thinking about, isn't it? So it also kind of means that the yeast that I collected, it makes a nice drink. But I've still got the yeast, so I can always make more. So I'll have it. But it works. It works. It's not a particularly strong alcohol. It's not going to get you terribly drunk. But it's nice and it works. And hobbies can be really expensive, or they can be really cheap. So you can collect your own yeast, and you can use old plastic containers and old bottles and cheap apple juice that you get from the supermarket and things that you find around the house, and you can ferment them. You don't have to buy fancy airlocks. You can. I'm fermenting something at the moment, and I'm using a balloon as an airlock. So put the balloon, or do the container as normal, fill the stuff in, put the yeast in, make sure it's all sterile, put a balloon over the opening, put a hole in the balloon with a pin, and then the pressure on the inside will not get too great because the hole will allow some air out, but it won't allow any air in. So it's a sterile environment. So you can ferment as cheaply as you want. The other end of the spectrum is you can buy lots of fancy equipment, fancy airlocks, demijohns, all kinds of fancy yeasts. Get your own, import your own grapes from France or from vineyards, and squash your own grapes and do it expensive as you like, but you can also do it really cheaply as well. So from that point of view, that's really interesting.